I think that people know what that even means. I don't think people know the definition of success is what I think most people would disagree with. I think about how a lot of folks that I work with, I work with a lot of founders that are launching first startups or second or third startups. And, a lot of times folks come in and they just are ready to become successful without ever having taken that time to actually define what that means for themselves and what it means to be successful like in their business. So, and how the two align, right? So for example, my definition of success when I first launched one of my first businesses was like did not align with the definition of success for my business, right? So I was launching a manufacturing business, and the definition of success for that business would be products in a bunch of different stores and products being sold every day, and massive amounts of people buying the product. And when I took the time to actually define what success meant for me, I did not want to have people buying loads of products that came in plastic packaging. And I did not want to be that CEO running things every day in a massive scale like that. And so the two did not align. Hence, there was just no fit for me for me to be the CEO of an organization or a company that by definition would be doing things that I personally didn't agree with. So I think that, a lot of people just tend to, okay, I'm going to launch a business and I go right into it, and they don't even really know what success means for themselves. So I would definitely say, like, define what that means for yourself, define what success means for you personally, define what success means for your business, and then see if the two align. And the thing I really, really love about entrepreneurship is that we have so much freedom. We get to do so many things in our own terms. And so you get to be the creator of what success means for you. So if for you, it means like you're like super excited to work 16-hour days and 7 days a week because your mission is so incredible, that's awesome. But if success for you means like, I'm going to work like 4 hours a week and that's plenty for me, that's great too. You just really have to be super mindful of what that is before you launch. Otherwise, you get to a point where you either overwhelmed and exhausted, or you just have lost sight of like where it is you're going because you forgot to define that.
A lot of food for thought there, Fire Nation, and I'm going to ask you to digest this as we move on to the main focus of the day, which is leading a business as a woman of color, the obstacles and the opportunities. And Nas, I just want to dive right in and talk about the obstacles for founders of color, and let's even talk about how these obstacles can be overcome.
There are a couple of ways to talk about, obstacles that come up for people of color, specifically for women of color as we launch our businesses. And one of them is, they're the systemic obstacles. They're the things that are out there in the world that are true. Like, it's just the fact that women of color get less funding. It's just the fact that it's more difficult to get your emails answered if their email is coming from a name that's hard to pronounce, or if it's coming from a woman. So those are systemic obstacles that are out there, and they can really they can bring people down. I have worked again with a lot of founders, and people just get just so annoyed and to have to deal with these sort of day-to-day systemic obstacles. But what I really like to focus on really when I work with founders are the internal obstacles, right? Because those are within our control. It's not like we're going to go out in the world and solve racism tomorrow. It's not going to happen. So instead of focusing on those things, focus on the internal obstacles, right? Because there are certain things that come up a lot with the folks I work with and the founders that I work with. And those are things that have become sort of generational obstacles. They're generational traumas, things that we are holding on to that a lot of times we don't even realize we're holding on to. And that if we take time to tackle them as they come up, or tackle them before we launch our business, we are really going to be doing ourselves a favor, right? So I'm talking about things like fear of exposure, of fear of success is a really big one. All kinds of money mindset issues. I have a book that I launched called that I that I launched last year called The Perfect Launch Plan. Obviously, perfect being tongue in cheek. And the way that I take people through the launch process, yes, I take them through the tactical steps of launching, but with every step in your business launch process, I also help people address a fear or one of these generational traumas that might come up for them. And so, like I said, there are things like money mindset stuff. So, for example, if you're coming from a poverty background, or like there's generations in your family of like poverty, there are a lot of times these mindsets that we're holding on to of like, you have to hold on to money, you can invest in yourself, money's hard to come by. Like, those are things that if you launch a business with that kind of mindset, you're going to have a hard time, right? So take the time to see like how that's coming up for you, the ways that you can tackle that, and what are things that are true and what are things that are not. I'm not even saying that all of these generational things that you're holding on to are bad. Some of them are going to serve you well, but really be mindful of what are going to be these internal obstacles, internal traumas, or just internal like patterns and habits that are coming from your family or from your history that you can let go of before you launch a business, or like let go of while you're in the process of scaling your business.
Now, that was a very thorough response, and I really appreciate you going through all of that. And I do want to shed some light on the positive side of things here as well, because there are some advantages of being a first-time CEO of color, and you've experienced this. Can you talk about it?
Yes. Oh my God. There are so many amazing things to being the first. And I love working with the first, right? I love working with founders who are the first person in their family to, launch a business. So the first person in the family with like enough ambition that are going to I'm going to make 7 figures this year, or the first who are, graduating from college with a business degree and are starting to launch a business. So I love working with firsts because there are rarely any bad habits, right? I think when I work with my founders who have launched like 2, 3, 4, 5 businesses before, there are certain things that people sort of tend to hold on to, like hold on close to their heart, because they feel like these are the way things must be done. But when you're a first-time CEO, or a person of color launching for the first time, again, you don't have those bad habits. But also, like I said before, there's just so much freedom. You get to do things your way, and you really get to be a representative, which I think is awesome. Like if you are, again, the first woman of color to launch a certain type of business, you sort of have like a built-in network. And that is so precious, because once you're representing other women of color, or if you're representing other, folks in whatever community that you happen to be a part of, or an identity that you hold that you really are proud of, you get that built-in network. And so much of running a business, of scaling a business, is tapping into your network. And so own whatever identity that you want to own, whether that's being a woman or being a person of color or whatever other identity you hold on to, and use that to your advantage as a first-time CEO or as a first-time entrepreneur to, again, tap into that network, because that's already built in for you, because so many of us are starved for that kind of representation in leadership that we will be more than happy and more than eager to sort of go behind you and support you in your business.
So much I love about that, Fire Nation. And, when you're looking for the advantages, when you're looking for the positive side of things, they absolutely are there to be found. And I want to talk with Fire Nation now about what founders in general should be thinking about when it comes to DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, especially during their launch phase. Like, what is that thought process?
Yeah, I love this question because since I do work with a lot of first-time entrepreneurs, and again, even the second or third-time entrepreneurs, there is a lot of times this question of like, why should I even be thinking about DEI in my launch phase, right? I'm just starting out. Like there's so much that I need to focus on. There's all these other little details that I have to think about every single day. Why should I be thinking of DEI on day one? And the answer here really is to do with the I part, right? The inclusion, or even the equity part, because again, you are launching something and you want to make sure that whatever that definition of success that you set out for yourself in the very beginning, it's going to be very clear in how you run your business, right? So I just spoke with a pair of founders today, and they were very mindful about the fact that even though they have these really lofty goals for their organization, every single time that they launch a new initiative or they come up with a brand new creative idea, they always tap back into their definition of success, which is nobody is going to work more than 4 days a week, right? So for them, like inclusion and making sure that everyone in their organization has that flexibility of working a 4-day week is really important. And because it's important for them personally. So these two founders decided, okay, day one, this is how we are going to work. And so therefore, anybody else that comes into our team gets that same level of respect from us. And that's just a simple definition of inclusion, right? That's a simple definition of equity too. So making sure that from day one, again, you have that clear definition so that as you grow, as you scale, and even if you want to become a massive empire, you want to make sure that you have something that you can always sort of tap back into and go, okay, are we making sure that the definition of success that I created for myself, me as a founder, is really being infused into how we run day to day, right? So is every person who joins our team feeling like they can contribute, feeling like they have a sense of belonging, or feeling like they can come to the table with new ideas and they're going to be heard. So you're just going to find so much more success and longevity in your business if you are thinking about your future team. Okay, granted, you're starting, let's say you're starting just you and your co-founder, and there are not that many people to think about. However, the idea is your company will grow, and you want to make sure you create that environment and that culture where everybody feels like they can come to the table with as much passion as you have for the business. And that's only going to happen if they feel that sense of belonging. But also when it is just you and your co-founder, for example, bringing that idea of DEI to how you create your product is also so exciting and so cool, because of course we all have our customers' avatars, right? We know who our ideal customer is, and we have our ideal customer profile. However, we also want to be always thinking like, how do we tap into the mindset of our ideal customer, but also ensuring that we're not leaving money on the table by excluding people that could potentially be a customer, even though they fall outside of our ideal customer profile.
Fire Nation, there's a lot to think about here. And I think when you are going through your own DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, this has to be part of the thought process. And we have a lot that we're going to be talking about when it comes to business values, when it comes to your mission, and so much more when we get back from thanking our sponsors. Customization and scalability might seem like things you don't need to worry about in the beginning, but I'm here to tell you that if you can integrate these things into your business software from the beginning, you'll save yourself loads of time in the long run. And with a HubSpot CRM, you get access to both from the very start. Let's take your website as an example. Customization helps you stand out from the crowd, and with HubSpot's Web Builder, you can create a unique website for your business in just a few easy steps. Select a theme yourself from the HubSpot Marketplace, or let developers build your unique theme from scratch. With its easy-to-use editor, you'll be able to seamlessly make updates and take full ownership of your site. And scalability helps you adapt to growth and changes quickly. As an example, maybe you're experiencing a big growth spurt with your team. With HubSpot's scalable security, you can ensure your team of 200 can work just as efficiently as a team of 20. Learn how your business can grow better at HubSpot.com. As an entrepreneur just starting out or looking to scale up, it can be tricky to know which advice to follow. And if you've been thinking about making an online course part of your business, the Thinkific Trends Report is one of the most important things you'll read this year. The team at Thinkific analyzed the top 20% of creators to discover what they're doing differently to make them so darn successful. In this report, you'll uncover why top creators are 2 times more likely to use communities, 3 times more likely to sell courses and bundles, plus learn why it's time to say goodbye to to the hard sell. I can say after reading it that this report is chock full of insights you can immediately put into action today, because if you're still creating courses the same way you were 5 years ago, you might be missing out on some big opportunities. Discover which trends are powering the most successful creators in 2022, what their secrets are to growing their business, how they focus their time, and much more. Visit thinkific.com/firetrends. That's THINKIFIC.com/firetrends. Nas, we're back, and I'd like to talk about the current ways of doing business and how they're getting in the way of innovation in an inclusive work culture. Can you give some specifics there?
I know entrepreneurs. I know myself. Like, I can sit and have like a million ideas all day about different businesses to launch. And so we kind of get really excited about the idea. We get really excited about the product, and we just we're really good at like these like big picture thinking, right? But I think that we kind of sometimes lose sight of the just the number of opportunities that we have to do things differently, rather than just following status quo just because that's the way things have always been done, right? So you want to create room for yourself as you're launching or as you're scaling your business to disrupt the way that things have always been done, not just for the sake of disrupting and being different, but for the sake of finding new opportunities, better opportunities, right? So one example is, I think people will launch a business, and especially if there's already a product out there that's similar, they will look at their competitors and sort of try to emulate the way they've done things because it's worked for them. When I think there's so much room there to maybe bring people in to ideate with you that don't have experience in that field, or maybe again tap into that network that you already have built in based on your identity or whatever other other communities you are a part of, to maybe see like, how would somebody with zero experience in this do this thing that I'm trying to do, right? How can I tap into a different way of thinking by tapping into people who maybe are a little bit removed from the process? And again, just to find opportunities for yourself to not hold like so many things close to heart. Don't get stuck to your business model. Don't get stuck to any one thing, especially if it's not working. So give yourself room to sprint test. I love the idea of sprint testing, especially if you're just starting as an entrepreneur, because you can move on really quickly from things that are not working. So for those of you who don't really don't know the concept of sprint testing, the idea is super simple, right? You get an idea, whether that's for a new way of doing marketing or a new business model or a new product or a new branding, whatever it may be. You get that new idea, you put it out in the world, you test it really fast, you get some data really fast, and then you move on really fast, so that instead of spending all that time gathering data or spending all that time waiting to see if the thing is going to work, you just learn from it right away and either double down on it because it's working really well, or you move forward really quickly and pivot into the next idea. So again, there's so many opportunities here for things to be done differently. You just have to look for those opportunities and tap into your network and tap into your community.
And I think that's what you're doing a great job of here today, Nas, is you're really kind of giving us the different options and the different perspectives to look at these, situations that we're going to be in as we move forward as entrepreneurs, as business owners today. So I kind of want to talk about why do business values matter? Let's talk about that specifically and what you've come across there. And then let's move into how we can develop those business values and our own mission.
I'm a big fan of business values. I think there are many different names now for them. I think it's great, right? We don't have to be stuck to this one word. And it goes back to the first thing that I was talking about, which is definition of success, right? I think the business values are an amazing way for entrepreneurs to know whether they're on the right track or not, or whether something that they want to try fits into where they're ultimately wanting to get to or wanting to go, right? So when you get stuck, or when you don't know which direction to go, business values are a really easy way to get back on track. track. And so, and again, I've worked with loads of founders who are just so eager to launch that they forget this really basic part of starting something new, which is like, you've got to ground yourself on something. And values are such an easy way to ground yourself. So, you want to, from day one, again, like define for you and your business, what is it that you're trying to do, but also how you're trying to do that thing, right? Again, that can go back to a simple thing as like flexible work environment, or it could be as simple as integrity. You'd be surprised at how often we get sort of stuck on like, how am I going to push back on this request from a client, or how am I going to, market this product? And the simple things like integrity can really help you guide ways forward, right? If integrity happens to be one of your values and your company values, it's such an easy way to figure out, okay, well, if this client is asking me to do X, Y, and Z, and it doesn't feel like it aligns with like my ideal of integrity, then I know for sure this is a no for that client, right? So you want to create these simple guidelines for you and your business, and they don't have to be written in stone. These are things that can evolve and grow as you grow as a leader, as your company grows. And yet it's really powerful to have these set of, like I said, grounding things that can help you figure out if you're on the right track or if you're veering from where you ultimately want to go. And to define those, to start setting the values for yourself, especially in the very beginning, if you're just launching, it's much easier to start with your own personal values. Like, who are you as a person? Who do you ultimately want to be as a leader? If your company is not huge and you don't have, 250 people, 1,000 employees, 5,000 employees, it's much easier to start with your own personal values, because you are ultimately the creator of the future culture of your company, right? So you want to get back to looking internally and figuring out, okay, how do I want this business to grow? And start putting those down. And even if you have like 3, 4, maybe 5 things to help guide you and ground you, it'll be again much easier to help move forward when you're stuck, or help you get back on track when you don't know which way to go.
And I don't think that can be stressed enough, Fire Nation. Start with your own personal values. So many people just don't know where to start. Start there. Now, Nas, as we start to wrap up here, give us the one key takeaway that you really want to make sure our listeners get from our entire conversation here today. Give us the best way to connect with you, any call to action you have, and then we'll say goodbye.
My one takeaway, obviously, I do have a bias here. The name of my business is The Mind Designer. So my one takeaway is remember yourself. Remember that you are launching a business, but you're ultimately and always a human being with feelings and, again, values and your own personal definition of success. So no matter how big of an empire you'd like to build or how small of a business you'd like to have, keep in mind that you are your own best guide, and it's ultimately where you want to go, where your business wants to go. And so my call to action for folks today is I give out a weekly workshop. It's always live. I love doing live workshops. And in this workshop, I go through all of that. I talk about internal obstacles. I talk about tips for launching successfully, tips for, managing your time, especially if you're a person who's busy with life and you still want to launch a company or launch a business. I do this weekly workshop, and all you have to do, so Fire Nation, all you have to do today is go to theminddesignerworkshop.com. That's theminddesignerworkshop.com. And I actually have a coupon for you all today. So if you want to go in there and show up and see me on Tuesdays, the coupon for you all is FIRE, and I can see you in the workshop where we can go through all your internal obstacles and tips to how to launch successfully.
That is fantastic. Thank you for that coupon. Much appreciated. And one more time, Fire Nation, that's FIRE. So Fire Nation, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You've been hanging out with NCS and JLD today, so keep up the heat. Head over to eofire.com. Just type NAS in the search bar, and her show notes page will pop up with everything that we've talked about here today, links to everything. And Nas, thank you for sharing your truth, your knowledge, your value with Fire Nation today. For that, we salute you, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Thank you all so much. Such a pleasure being here.
Hey, Fire Nation. Today's Value Bomb content was brought to you by Nas. And Fire Nation, are you ready to rock your very own podcast? Check out our free podcasting course where I will teach you how to create and launch your podcast for free. freepodcastcourse.com. I'll catch you there, or I'll catch you on the flip side. Still think you can create an online course the same way you did 5 years ago? Think again. Thinkific has looked at the top 20% of course creators to see what they're doing now to be so darn successful. Find out for yourself at thinkific.com/firetrends. Work in sales or interested in learning how to sell? Then check out the Salesman Podcast with Will Barron. You'll learn how to find buyers and win big business in effective and ethical ways with episode topics like the 4-step process to influencing buying decisions. Listen to The Salesman wherever you get your podcasts.